Kailash sir and Rajiv Goda sir. Sir, aap aa rahe hai karke the crowd has actually gone by almost 3 times. We were planning for a smaller session. It's a compliment, sir. Your presence has made it really wonderful. Let's give a big round of applause welcoming Mr. Kailash Gallet, Mr. Rajiv Goda, who has joined online, and we'll also have Mr. Tejasvi Surya joining shortly. Let's give a big round of applause for.
Before we start the session, we'll actually launch the mobility framework, the expert note that is written by us. So we are going to launch it first.
So this is a paper launch that we are doing, setting the framework for supporting better decision making in India mobility planning on supply, demand, and performance measure. The authors are our CEO Madhav Pai, myself Pawan Mulkutla. I lead the transport and the clean air program, and Alok Mukherjee. So we actually are saying that we need to really relook the way we are imagining transport in India, and there is a need for a new approach and framework to really look at mobility. So I will request Honorable Kailash Gallet ji, Madhav, Lohia sir, Bhanu sir, Director at Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, sir, please come. Felipe, come. Thank you very much. Madhav, I'll request now to welcome all the dignitaries, and also if you can talk a little bit briefly on why this framework is extremely important in today's urban mobility context. Over to you, Madhav, CEO WRI India.
Thank you very much, Pawan. And, this paper I should have written 10 years ago. I needed the help of Alok to actually write it. But I think it's a very basic, simple paper where we are saying that, usually in cities, if you try to talk about transport, the conversation is really focused only on congestion. And we really need to, the idea is to really change that conversation. And to a large extent, I think the purpose of this whole session is also this. What we were trying to introduce is a simple framework to help people understand how mobility works in a city, the idea of there being demand, there being supply, and then the performance of the network, and performance not just measured by congestion, but 3 or 4 more measures like modal share, by trip length. And so just trying to create these first principles of a mobility system in a city. And also the big 2-3 things we are pointing out is supply data. We only talk about vehicles or buses or trains, but we were never able to analyze the road networks. Now with use of geospatial data, etc., that becomes very easy to do. So we've actually democratized the road network geospatial data for about 20 cities, and it's available for anybody to use and do analysis. The other thing is demand data in India is actually absolute. Travel demand data is absolutely missing. Really the only way to collect it is to do 2% sample surveys. And I think it is our big ask to the ministry and others that, as we are spending this, making these large investments, we should do decadal 2% household travel behavior survey, because this is the demand data that is going to be able to allow us to assess if our whatever investments we are making are happening well. So, I think, so these are the main sort of recommendations also through this paper, and hopefully it becomes one of these widely used documents to start sort of changing the discourse of transport away from just congestion. Because today TomTom, which is, publishes the most congested city index, and they are only looking at one busy stretch on the road, and then they say, Mumbai is the most congested city and Bogota is the second most congested city, and then people are trying to react or respond to that one statistics. And I think our hope is to change some of that conversation with this paper, but also then I think the broader conversation and the platform that we will release. So thank you very much, and hopefully people find it useful.
Good evening, everyone. So thank you very much. So we have a wonderful panel that we have set aside for today, what we're calling the Shift Transport Initiative. So thank you very much, Mr. Kailash Gelarji. Thank you for coming. Together with that, we also thank Mr. Rajiv Gowda, who has joined us online. Mr. Tejasvi Surya will also be joining soon. We also have with us Ms. Saili Rane from the Rain Matter Foundation. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Pranamesh Chakraborty, IIT Kanpur. Mr. Deepak Dash from Times of India. Mr. Dr. Sumit Sen from IIT Bombay. Cornelia from GIC, thank you very much. Mr. Abhijit Lokre from Urban Land Foundation. We also have our colleagues from WRI India. And Mr. Loya, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining. And Mr. Bhanu Pratap Singh, sir, thank you very much for joining us. We also have Srinivas. We have Pawan, of course, Mr. Madhav. Thank you. Shivani Singh from Hindustan Times. We have a good sort of, other huge media personnel who have joined this conversation. Dr. Rahul Goyal from IIT Delhi, welcome. And of course, Mr. Felipe, thank you very much for joining this session. We also have Mr. Saurabh, Mr. Kasturia. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining. And of course, Ms. Kashmira Dubash from ITDP. So we welcome you all. It's a packed in the literal sense of this session, and we look forward to a great discussion. And over to you, Srinivas.
Thank you. Anyone? Yes. Huh? Right. So we had planned a small context setting sort of introduction presentation, but I think Madhav has already talked to you about it. So in the interest of time, and we've allocated 2 hours for it, but as you can see, we have a packed room already, and we want to hear from everyone. So what we will do straight away is to get into our special guests. In conferences like this, in forums like this, you usually get to meet other people like you, right? People that are doing same work as you, maybe in a different city, slightly different work. But we are trying to break that mold and kind of go beyond the dreaded echo chambers, right? See if we can have a conversation about the biggest challenges the cities of India have in terms of mobility. Can we bring the highest people sitting in the highest decision-making bodies? We are very pleased to have a current member of Legislative Assembly, Delhi, sitting in with us. We have ex-member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Professor Rajiv Gowda, joining us online, and we have a very young and dynamic member of Parliament, Tejasvi Surya, also from Bengaluru, joining us shortly. We also have esteemed members of media that work on mobility and write stories about mobility and how cities are hold the governments accountable on mobility. So we want to hear their stories. We have institutions like KUMTA, the Chennai Urban Mobility Association. We have professors. You heard, I think we got the big 3, right? Bombay, Delhi and Kanpur. We got all the IITs. We got someone from Bogota, our esteemed colleague Felipe. So what I was trying to say is we will have a conversation that reflects the opinions and thoughts of different stakeholders in this mobility ecosystem, and we are trying to build a new way of doing mobility in our cities. That's the main purpose of this. And who better than to talk about it? First, I'll invite Professor Rajiv Gowda to share his opening remarks, and then I'll ask Honorable Kailash Gelarji to share his views and his experience as Transport Minister and the transformational scene that we've seen in Delhi during his long tenure before. So over to you, Professor Rajiv Gowda. Can you hear me? Can we put focus on him, please? Sir, you're on mute. Can we focus spotlight on him, please? Sir, you're still on mute.
I thought you needed to unmute me. Nonetheless, first, congratulations. What's going on now?
We can hear you, sir.
You can. Oh, great. Oh, multiple things out there. Anyway, first of all, congratulations to WRI India for hosting. Am I still there?
Yes, yes. So we
Oh.
can hear you. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. After all these years of being online, it's amazing to see that we're still fumbling with that, with this technology. Anyway, the basic thing is you guys are doing an amazing job. And when you have a standing room only convening on a very, very important topic like this, hats off to you. I'm also saying this because what I'm going to talk about owes a lot to our collaboration. I was vice chairman of the Planning Commission in Karnataka for a year. And in that period, we collaborated with WRI India's Bangalore group, and we launched essentially metro feeder buses in Bangalore, right? So on what basis did we do this? And first, we started looking at where would be a good place to sort of introduce this concept and make sure that it works. Just as it happened, there was going to be an extension of a metro line, which would then connect the one end of the outer ring road, connect to one end of the outer ring road in my Lok Sabha constituency of KR and Bangalore North. And that outer ring road stretch, if you want to think about data, that outer ring road stretch had 9.5 lakh high-paid professionals, lots of multinationals, and if you wanted to, sort of make an impact on the GDP, the best way to do that was to make life easier on that stretch. So we decided to go ahead and introduce metro feeder buses. Now, you might all be saying, yeah, so what's the rocket science about this? The basic point is this is a no-brainer, but it just had not been done. And then we worked together with multiple agencies. Since I was in an official cabinet rank position, it gave me some convening power to try and get 5 different agencies to coordinate and cooperate. Then, of course, there were other dramas that went on, but ultimately we managed to introduce the metro feeder bus and launched it with much fanfare, with the transport minister joining us, going to an IT company's headquarters and having a press conference, and essentially getting every stakeholder, governmental stakeholder, and the Outer Ring Road Companies Association and others all together. And when we did this, we ended up with a situation where this became a very major success. So since then, the Bengaluru Metropolitan Transport Corporation has introduced, I think at last count, 55 metro feeder buses, essentially focusing on first and last mile connectivity. We did it based on, a rough estimation of the potential ridership. WRI India and its team had actually done some ground surveys and had even finer grained data available. And at the end of it, basically, we've been able to go in there and get people to shift from private transport to public. And that was enabled by this larger movement that WRI India had been pushing forward, called personal to public. And that's something that I'm very happy to have been involved with. I look forward to reading this report. And I'm glad that Alok Mukherjee, who once worked in my office, has been a major contributor here. And so there's all these little symbiotic interactions between us and all together in the larger mission of making data-driven public transport interventions successful.
Thank you, Professor Raju Gowda. Your support, and we keep talking about political will, and you just provided that in that instance. And the Bengaluru Metro ridership used to be 6 lakhs before this intervention. It is now 9 lakhs. Actually, it's hit 10 lakhs with the yellow line, but it went up rapidly after that because the tech corridor got connected and the buses were made. So again, good use of data, good timing, and then the political power to make change happen. So hopefully that will become a standard. And speaking of political will, we have the person in the hot seat, right? The Transport Minister of Delhi. Delhi today is India's biggest bus fleet. I think that deserves a round of applause. The biggest bus fleet, the most ridership of metro in any city in India and probably in the world. Yes, Delhi folks, bragging rights. So Delhi is really doing amazing work in terms of public transport. The city is growing, but the public transport has been growing. And the man who did a lot of work in that regard is right amidst us. So we now request Honorable Member of Legislative Assembly and ex-Transport Minister Kailash Gehlot ji to address this audience. Sir, you prefer this or you want?
Here on this.
Thanks.
I think first of all, let me congratulate RRI for hosting this Connect Karo conference, and a lot of familiar faces. I also welcome the delegates from, I can see a lot of faces from outside India. I welcome you to Delhi, and Mr. Lohia, Mr. Banu from Mahua, Mr. Madhav, I can't see where he. People from the media, Professor Rahul from IIT. I heard Saurabh is also here. I heard from IIT Bombay, and
That's the honorable. Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
I think all is fine.
Is he audible?
Am I audible? Am I audible? Yeah. I think when we talk about mobility, since I had the privilege of planning and executing about the transport when I was a minister, I think it's very difficult to really focus exactly what urban mobility and when we say about mobility. I think the biggest hurdle now also, when we talk about transport and we talk about mobility, I think we talk about fare box collection, we talk about cost recovery, and all the while when I was a minister, I tried always to emphasize that when we talk about mobility, we cannot just mean how much money we have recovered. When we talk about transport as a sector, we are still talking about fare box collection. We are still talking about cost recovery, and we are still in the same mode. We are saying that any public transport undertaking, any state transport undertaking is a loss making. But ठीक है, छोड़ दीजिए.
This is working. That's not.
It's fine.
Sorry. Yeah, it's on. Oh.
So when we talk about mobility and when you talk about transport, I think still the mindset is the same, that this is a loss making venture. And all this while I have been trying to emphasize that when we talk about education, when we talk about health, do we still talk about that this is a loss making school? When we talk about any hospital, do we ever say that this is a loss making hospital? I don't think so. So I think that mindset has to change. When we talk about transport, when we talk about mobility, I think we must think in the bigger perspective. We should not have a narrow view, and we must always think that this is an investment, this is a social investment which has a lot of external benefits. I think that is the biggest, my learning has been that when we talk about transport, when we talk about mobility, we cannot always think in the terms of revenue generation, that this is a revenue generating stream. At the same time, I also would like to emphasize that any city, any country which has a good transport system, it does attract a lot of investment. So it means mobility when we say, and transport when we talk about, we should always see it as a tool for social and economic development. It is not just commuting people from one place to another. The second most important point in my learning has been when we talk about public transport and we talk about mobility, we always talk about the numbers. I think Srinivas also mentioned that Delhi has the biggest fleet. My learning has been that the number of buses is one part, but how the buses are being put to use, how the routes are being planned, how the are we able to focus on those areas which are not served? We had opportunity to collaborate with IIT, and I think even that time Professor Rahul was involved. I think Saurabh was also there, and I think that time also my only request was to see, first of all, when we talk about Delhi, I said use the big data, use the data from other agencies which will tell you that from which point to which point maximum people are commuting. And if we are able to serve those areas, then I think we can really say that we have made a difference. Mr. Madhav talked about the household surveys. I don't think we are conducting surveys on regular basis. When we talk about route planning, and when we talk about a scientific route planning, then the surveys is not a one-time job. I think it has to be continuous. I think if I can put it very frankly, I don't think any state in our country. I think I'm audible otherwise also. I don't think any state or city in our country is conducting regular surveys, which is giving you regular feedback, because these kind of data inputs are very crucial, are very important for route planning. Route length, you talked about Bombay. I think Bombay has far much shorter route lengths as compared to Delhi. In Delhi, if I give you an idea, we have routes of almost 50 to 60 kilometers one way. Whereas in Bombay, I think you have maximum route length of 10 to 15 kilometers one way. Procurement of buses is another, has been a challenge, at least for Delhi. I think one major shift in procurement of buses, which we were able to do, I think I must thank the central government under the leadership of Honorable PM, the FAME scheme which was launched, where we aggregated the demand for all electric buses from different states in the entire country. And I think Delhi had the maximum advantage. We were able to place orders for more than 6,000 electric buses. I think one of the challenges still when you talk about urban mobility is most of the STUs, and a lot of media people are here, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the STUs in our country are, I will not say loss making, but they are categorized as loss making. Because when you buy buses outrightly, then you need a lot of capital. I think Delhi shifted from that procurement model of one-time outright purchase to per kilometer, what we say the gross cost model. And I think as we are speaking, I think probably just maybe 100 or 200 old DTC buses would remain. Most of the buses which were owned by DTC have retired, and purely I think Delhi has shifted to gross cost model, and I think it has brought down the burden on the state finances to a considerable extent. If we really want to make a change in urban mobility and mobility otherwise, I think the most important part, which even Mr. Rajiv Gowda mentioned, is the political will. I think political will is the most important thing when we talk about mobility. There's so much of funds are infused. When we wanted to electrify the bus fleet of Delhi, these kind of figures, I don't think they are much relevant for the public. But just to electrify one depot, just one depot, and on an average, one depot in Delhi is around 5 to 6 acres. In 1 acre, on an average, we are able to park, I think, around 25 buses. So if just to electrify one depot, I think we spend almost 80 to 100 crores. So that is the kind of money which is required by any state transport undertaking. That is the kind of money we are talking about. And in the last maybe 2 to 3 years, you'll be surprised to know that Delhi has spent more than 1,500 crores just on electrification of depots. So until and unless, why I'm mentioning this, until and unless the political will is there, I don't think we can bring about a change in mobility or urban mobility, or when we talk about transport. Any other point, Sinoj, you would like me to touch?
Sir, I think one thing I'd say, so based on your remarks, would it be fair to say you think that all cities and perhaps state government should bring in a systematic continuous household demand survey collection process going forward from a mobility perspective? Has the time come for that?
See, without survey, I am 100% confident that you cannot do scientific route planning. You may do route planning, but you actually cannot do scientific route planning if you don't have proper data, if you don't have proper inputs. What you will see is, you will see number of buses, one after another, which we call bunching of buses, but they all seats are empty. So that is where the route planning comes in. I would be very happy if I see Delhi or any other state in the country, if they have route planning as of now, which is being done by the transport departments across country. They are fixed route planning. We don't have dynamic route planning. Now, suppose you have a cricket match in Firozshah Kotla, Arun Jaitley Stadium. Now you will have a lot of footfall. Suddenly you will see there is a lot of demand only towards that specific point. We don't have the flexibility. We don't have the flexibility to cater to that kind of demand. I don't know whether in the other developed countries, maybe UK, I heard their state transport department does that kind of dynamic route planning.
Special events, yeah.
Maybe special events. But I think so we have a lot of depots in our city, in Delhi, and every depot is headed by a depot manager. Why can't we give him flexibility, let's say, of 15 buses, 10 buses to take care of those kind of special events? I think that requires a mature thinking and a lot of mature planning and scientific planning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It's fascinating to hear the thinking process that goes on, and when
I can just stop you,
sir, please,
for a minute. I am reminded of Gustavo Petro, who was president of Colombia, and I quoted him when I presented the budget in Delhi Vidhan Sabha in I think in 23 or 22. So if I remember correctly that phrase, it said
Developed country.
a developed country is not where poor have cars. It is where rich travel by public transport.
Yes.
So, तो अगर मैं इसको I don't know whether you understand Hindi or not. We'll translate it.
Just a small correction of the quote. That's Enrique Peñalosa, actually.
Sorry?
And
That's
that's
Enrique Peñalosa, the one who
quoted to multiple people, but originally said by
Mayor of Bogota.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have been always giving credit to Mr. Costa. and so has been the social media and
Yes.
a lot of other leading articles. तो अगर हम हिंदी में बात करें तो जब आप मोबिलिटी की बात करते हैं तो अगर शायद हम में से भी कोई तो अगर मिस्टर प्रोफेसर राहुल ये इनको अगर आप देख लें कि ये बस से आए हैं तो वी विल हैव अ डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव अबाउट राहुल कि यार गाड़ी नहीं है बस से क्यों आए आई थिंक इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू चेंज दैट माइंडसेट कि बस यूज़ करना पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट यूज़ करना गलत नहीं है और पूरे इस फ्रॉम राइट my previous now at times I am in a very difficult spot because I was minister in a different political party and I am an MLA in a different political party. तो मुझे समझ में नहीं आता कि क्या ये बोलें कि दिल्ली में बहुत बढ़िया काम हुआ है. So I am in a very tight spot. So I have to choose my words very carefully. And politically correct also. But I thank Srinivas who said that a lot of interesting work happened in transport during.
So the numbers don't lie, and the numbers of Delhi mobility are there for everyone to see. So you can certainly take a lot of credit for it, regardless of which party you are in, which position you are in. Before I go to our honorable director from Mahua, I wanted to bring in Felipe, my colleague from WRI, and because sir has referred to Colombia, and Felipe is our global mobility director, but that's not what I'm invoking here, Felipe. I'm invoking your role as a former transport secretary for the city of Bogota. Like you have a mayor for the city, they have a transport mayor, you can call it. So he was that for Bogota, the famous BRTS system of Bogota and all transport sectors of Bogota. So the question for you, Felipe, is if something is going wrong with the public transport system, let's say the BRTS is getting 10% less ridership this month than last month, what kind of data is available for Bogota to look at and how to change those parameters, how to get back your ridership? What are the systems you developed in Bogota?
Thank you so much, and thank you, Sir Kailash, for all your. Because actually, while hearing you, I got quite inspired on and remembering my time in Bogota when I was making some decisions. So let me start maybe telling you when I started as CEO of Transmilenio before being the Secretary of Mobility in Bogota. That was the moment of the pandemic, and actually during that moment happened the worst riots in the city, where they destroy like around 80% of the collection system of the transport system. And it was quite tough, of course, because I had every day 600,000 people walking on the streets trying to get the transport system. And it was really, really difficult to manage, right? And of course, you as a public server, you need to make decisions quite fast and then try to respond to the situation as it's happening. And the only way, actually, that I was able to make decisions with my background as an engineer and, of course, being super technical was with the data that was collected previously, so we could try to understand the situation and make the best decision, even with something that was not easy to understand on how and why was happening. So as you were saying, for example, why some buses are bunching, or what we can do in terms of sending some more buses to specific places, or what tools in terms of technology we have so we can predict some models, so we can say, okay, this is going to happen because of the demand coming to the station, because we are seeing some increase in the last 10 minutes. So what we can do in terms of providing better information. All that, the only way to make those decisions is with information. Right now in Bogota, what is happening is that we have open sources. And actually everyone, no matter who, in the academic, in the public sector can access this information, this data, so they can analyze and help the city in order to be able to have the right information. So again, analyze it and then being able to make decisions. And very important, we did something critical in that moment back in 2021. So we didn't have GTFS in dynamic GTFS. And I think that kind of tools are absolutely important because, again, as I said yesterday in another intervention, that helps to have two ways, information in two ways. One, for the government, so they have the right information, they can make decisions, but then back to the user, so they know what to expect from the system. And that makes systems more reliable, but also it helps the government to be more serious about what they are offering. So that's what we try to do in Bogota. I wouldn't say it's perfect. I wouldn't say it works because, of course, it's a chaotic city, huge city of 10 million people with a lot of issues. But, of course, getting that data, it's absolutely important. If you ask me, for the last probably 10, 15 years, and that's why I guess Bogota has become so famous, most of the people who get to the office, to these positions as Secretary of Mobility, as CEO of Transmilenio, get the information. And they are technical people normally. So they can actually answer to the needs of people. And as you were saying, of course, that needs political support, political will. So the decisions can be moved forward. And that's how actually we moved to have electric fleet. Because then we got some political support, political will from Claudia Lopez, who was the mayor in that moment. And she called the financing secretary. And then she said, okay, this is going to be a decision. We are moving forward. So what data, what information we have in place, and how we can have that information so we can move on. So yeah, I just finished saying I absolutely agree, and that's why the moment you mentioned this social importance of the transport systems, how essential and strategic they are, and why then cities should understand and see these specific assets as that strategic and essential. That's when my memories came back to that moment. And again, as I said, as a decision maker, I have to say the best thing that could happen to me, having to make decisions from 1 minute to another, not really having time to think, it's getting data in place. I know you love maps as I do. So having maps in front of you and being able to read them and make decisions from that, that's the best thing that could happen.
Great, thank you. Mr. Gellert, I must tell you that whoever runs Transmilenio and becomes Transport Secretary of Bogota ends up being the mayor and ends up running for president also. So maybe in a few years, this man will become president of Colombia, who knows. I'll go to your left, my friend Saili Rane here. She's from the Rainmatter Foundation, and her title at Rainmatter Foundation is the Chief Storyteller. She's the chief storyteller at the Rainmatter Foundation, and when I watch the videos they make titled The Climate Brief, many of you would have followed them, I've seen them, phenomenal videos that are making public transport come alive to people. So Sally, what I want to know is, one of the biggest feedback you got last time when your video went viral is, why is my city not in this video? So what do you make out of it? And that's one question. Other is, as a storyteller, what data is available to you and not available to you to tell the stories? Can you speak to that?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, and interesting question. So the first one, so this is, so we did a series on public transport, and we basically said we'll compare 3 cities, and we chose Delhi, Bombay and Bangalore to talk about how public transport is in each. Right, and maybe we should not have chosen only 3, because we actually got a barrage of comments saying, hey, but what about Chennai and what about Hyderabad, and and people really wanted to know, right? Because we spoke about, so there was one video which was about the suburban rail network, and we spoke about Bombay, and we said, hey, whatever, Delhi doesn't really have much, and they're like, hey, but Chennai has it. And so one thing we realized is, so I think 2 things. One is there is a lot of, I think, demand, and maybe everyone here already knows it, for good public transport, right? As in, there is clearly a lot of demand for it. People are really feeling the pain, and it's a pain point that really, really comes up, at least, at least in terms of comments and how people engage. The other is there is also a lot of pride for where the public transport is good. So there is pride in, in people for whatever works in their cities, right? So there is pride for the fact that, hey, Bombay has a good suburban railway network. There is pride for the fact that Delhi has a really good, metro network, right? There is pride for the fact that maybe, some cities have subsidized public transport for maybe subsidized bus routes for women. So there's a lot of pride, and I actually think that's something that you can build on, right? And it's important for policymakers, for, people who are kind of thinking about public transport, thinking about, where investments are going, to actually know that it works both ways. So it's felt as a pain point, but when it works, it can actually become a matter of, it's a positive thing, right? So on the second question, Srinivas, on the kind of data that's available and not available, see, to be very honest, very little data is available in formats that are easily consumable. And that is even to me as somebody who's a creator of this content, right? So I'm trying to find data and create stories that can be easily explained to people. And typically when we make videos on the climate brief, the idea always was to make it very, very simple and to talk in language people would understand. But to find data that is reliable, that triangulates, because I don't want three sources which are talking three different things. I want a source which I can actually trust, which I want to be able to put out and be sure that what I'm saying is right? To actually find data that is reliable, accurate, trustworthy, triangulates across sources is really not easy. And again, I am sure some of this data probably exists in places, but I'm coming at it from somebody who creates saying it's not as easily accessible. So even if you look at simple things like what is the number of buses in a city that is run by because there are actually different bodies running buses in a city, to get an accurate number of the fleet size of a city is not as easy. And I'm going to add one more thing, which I think it kind of complicates in today's world. Because today most people are going to chatbots to ask for information, right? And so one thing we do is whenever we're creating something, we do our research and we kind of get to our numbers, and then we just ask that question to different chatbots to see what kind of answers come up, right? And the answers are very, very inaccurate.
Right. It goes to prove that AI doesn't work yet, right?
Yeah, but yeah, it doesn't. But then the other way, that's why people are looking for answers, right? So more and more people are looking for answers at chatbots and are going to trust them. And therefore, I think it's a question for us to also figure out. Right. And because what are chatbots picking up? They're picking up data that's available on the internet, right? As in, yes, there is some hallucination and all of that. But quite often they put sources and they've picked up some source. So I think it's also for us to get this data and put it out there, because that's what is going to get picked up more and more. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sally. Mr. Gehlot has to move to another appointment. We really appreciate him coming here. So before I let you go, what we are planning to do at the end of this roundtable is form an alliance, a new group informally, if you will, of people that are sitting around this table and many more that are not in the room, so that we can figure out what kind of agenda or advocacy that we can work towards. Like every city must run a household demand survey every 5 years. We have the National Health and Family Survey, we have census. Why not have a mobility survey? That could be one of the agendas that we advocate for. Let me put you in a spot and say, would you be kind enough to join and drive this kind of advocacy group? And it'll be wonderful to have someone like you with all of this background to be part of that, sir. And we'll tap on your wisdom and your guidance from time to time.
I think in whatever way I can contribute, I am always willing to be part of any group.
Okay, final comments.
I thank WRI for giving me this opportunity to be here, and lovely meeting all of you. Very happy to see old faces, and I only wish and pray that when we talk about mobility and whatever we are discussing, it is not confined to just this room. It goes beyond this room, and it is actually executed and translate in real life. I once again thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll catch up some other time.
Thank you. Sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Sir, small token of our appreciation.
You give it to you. Sweet. Zach, stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Thanks. Maybe.
Sir, you can. Kashmir, why don't you join us? Please come. Sir, you can.
No. All right. I'll let Kashmira come.
So we're fortunate to have Mr. Bhanu Pratap Singh Badoria here. Sir is a director at Mahua. He is particularly famous in this room because he runs the PM e-bus Seva and he has a lot of experience running buses. Many of you are big fans of PM e-bus Seva because bus demand is there. It's latent, but cities don't necessarily support it. So Mahua has come up with this brilliant scheme of called PM e-bus Seva. 170 cities are eligible for it. You have 10,000 electric buses up for grants, and you have received a lot of demand from a lot of cities. We'd like to know, one, how is the demand from the cities? Are cities not able to cater to the bus demand? Two, how are you measuring that demand, and what is the data points you're using to allocate buses to which city? How can one city get X buses and another city get Y buses? How are you determining that? So if you can share that and any other thing in relevance to this context of the conversation.
Thank you. At the outset, I thank WRI for giving me this opportunity to share my last 2 years' experience. Actually, I am new to this ecosystem of bus transport, but I have learned a lot, and I would say my this Mahua scheme, PM Bus Seva, it's a kind of universal service obligation. If you compare with the telecom, what Jio Airtel is doing, that is being done by FAME, and what BSNL is doing, that is being done by PM Bus Seva. So we are reaching out to the city or introducing public transport for the very first time. And it's a blessing in disguise also, because the problem is now this traveling in bus is not traveling in car is not a status symbol. So everybody want to move through buses, provided they are good and they are available in 2-minute frequency. So if we go to those cities and we create a culture of urban transport, we provide the buses. So as far as demand is concerned, so there is no scientific measurement was done. When I joined, the cabinet road was ready, and based on the population was the only criteria. We decided to some slabs based on the population, like for 3 to 5 lakhs, 50 buses were allocated, and 5 to 20 it was 100, and 20 to 4 million it is around 150 buses. So no scientific approach of like because every city is a different, unique in its character, its economic activity. So we did not apply any scientific approach. Only one criterion was used, that was population.
Population.
So, right. But the thing is that these cities are demand. People are not aware of the public. There's a divide of north-south divide. You can say in the northern states, there's no culture of public transport. It is picking up.
In tier 2, tier 3?
In tier 2, tier 3 or tier 1, it is picking up. If you compare Madhya Pradesh, there is no formalized public transport system, right? Even state, this intercity transport system, that is also not that formal. So now, if you see the demand from southern states which are more industrialized, so there's a lot of awareness and demand is also there. So in the first phase, we got demand from Maharashtra, and thereafter gradually right now we have almost more than 12,000 demand is there, because people took time to appreciate the advantage of this scheme, because the benefit and incentives being offered in our scheme is very good. In FAME, we are getting hardly 30 to 35 lakhs per bus, but if you compare with the PME bus Seva scheme, as it is on GCC model, so it is spread out over a period of 10 years, but if you compare it in the NPV terms, we are paying around 1 crore per bus. So it is quite lucrative. On top of that, we are also providing at least 20 lakhs per bus for the infrastructure. So we are creating the ecosystem to attract the people to move to the public transport. It was quite challenging because demand is not forthcoming. You can see there is a PME drive scheme. We could easily get the demand of 14,000 buses in a matter of 3 or 4 months. But it took me around 1.5 years to convince cities and took them on board, and state also. Just so I need to sell my scheme. So last year I was doing that, and I connect with this highly. The same question intrigues me. Whenever there is a parliament session, there is a question how many buses are running. So I also struggle to find out the correct answer. So in that spirit only, I thought of this ITMS. So that is the initiative. That's my dream project. So we are thinking of having an IoT platform, and that can ultimately can become a national transport IoT portal. Any transport vehicle, any vehicle can latch on to that portal and get the service, kind of a marketplace where anyone can latch on their bus or vehicle and have this at least basic minimum services of track end and also the number of type of buses. So we are far at least hopefully in the by mid of September bid will be out. So everything has been finalized. So that will be a great thing, and it is for all the buses. All state can onboard their buses onto that system, and we are also planning some incentives for attracting the cities which are not part of our scheme, particularly those 9 cities, and any other city can join. We will incentivize them to join our platform. And another feature is we are thinking of having a centralized EFCS portal, because this NCMC, another is fare integration, ticketing integration. For that, there is some core work is to be done. One is standard data standard, then the other is bringing on board the ETIM supply service provider and the bank. So this common thread is AFCS. So I am making a sincere effort to have a centralized AFCS. At least in the PME bus seva scheme, we will be able to have fare integration or ticketing integration. So that is the spirit we are working on. So it will definitely create an ecosystem and bring down the cost of public transport, because every city is doing there's independent item. That is not a need. I think, see, there is a center and state subject, but for data there is no centralization or decentralization. You can have centralized and disseminate to all. It is easier to disseminate, right? So that is the spirit. First, sensorization, digitalization strategies to be there. So bus is already equipped with the ITMS. Now that has to be pooled onto a single platform. The analytics is a very easy part. I will tell you, our colleagues from academia is there. Then they understand this. You simply give them the data, they will come up with the analytics by tomorrow. So the challenge is to have this basic foundation, data foundation.
Standards.
Yes. So this is my say, and I would echo the sentiment of Kailash sir. The narrative has to change. Public transport, you should look at the service as an economic activity, as a social good, rather finding out the profitability or viability into it.
Great.
So this is my personal.
That's fantastic coming from you, sitting in MOA. Speaking of academia, I request academia to step forward. Dr. Pranamish, I think you should take this seat so someone else can take your seat. Please come forward. So you're stuck in. Yeah, so please come here. There's an empty seat here. So 2 very short follow-ups for you. One is, do you agree with this proposition that every city must do household mobility survey? And will MOHUA get behind a demand like that? And do you think, I think MOHUA, for example, should create a process for it and share that process, if not the funds for it. Would you be willing to do that? Second, also very short, is you're doing demand aggregation. You're talking to various bus manufacturers. In cities like ours, and many cities in India are like Bengaluru, we are 500 years old. Many of our city roads are very narrow. The regular buses cannot go there. And the constant excuse given by car users or personal vehicle users is, oh, we don't have bus in our area. And the bus corporation says we can't run bus in that area. So what about aggregating the demand for mini buses and run a PM mini bus seva scheme? Would you be willing to consider something like that?
Okay, I'll just come to first question. this as far as household survey is concerned, there's already some discussion was going on. I'm not aware this Ministry of Statistics, some discussion was going on. But we do, as Mahua, as per the policy, we provide support to all the cities for having this any study regarding preparation of comprehensive mobility plan. So city do approach us, and we are giving entire 100% support for conducting this any survey or coming out with a comprehensive mobility plan.
So if a city wants to come out with a
Yes.
survey, you will fund it.
Yes, we are funding. We are already funding on the last 4 to 5 years, and it is 100% funding.
But
So-
to our knowledge, no city in India has conducted such a survey. Is that?
No,
those
I am
from
not
the-
talking about the household survey alone.
Okay.
For
CMP.
for CMP, we are providing money. 100% support is being provided. That so survey is part of it.
Okay.
Right. So it has to be city specific only.
So we have to tie CMP to the household survey. Maybe that is the way out.
For metro, as
Great
per the
point you
policy,
bring up,
as
sir.
per the metro policy, for any metro project to be sanctioned, sir is sitting here. So that's a precondition. Your CMP should not be older than 5 years.
But they're preparing CMP so that you get the metro project approval, sir, rather than doing
So
a
yeah, now that
is the problem.
now we again come back to data question.
Right.
We again come back to data question. So we need to pool the data, and we should rely on data driven decision making. Right. That is the only solution. So the second
The minibus seva scheme.
second question is, I actually was votary for this small buses when there was first tender discussion on the first tender was going on. So what was the model earlier followed by CSL was they were making lot type wise. For the 12 meter, there's an entire aggregation for entire country. For 12 meter, then 9 meter, and then 7 meter. So that was having a problem at the depot level, because if every depot got 3 type of buses, the depot management become difficult. So we had an idea, and also that thing was in my mind, because 7 meter bus market is not developed
Yes.
in the India, because hardly there are 2 or 3 manufacturers are there. So we consciously took a decision. We came out with different strategy of coming out with L1. So what we did, the L1 will be decided for all the buses. It will be index kind of L1. So 9 meter, 12 meter and 7 meter will be club, and the L1 will be decided on the basis of all the 3 types of buses aggregated at a state level. But what happened after some OEMs represented, sir, 7 meter buses are not ready with us. It would take time. So based on their request, 4 or 5 traditional OEM represented us. So we took 7 meter out, and we did tendering for 9 meter and 12 meter. And so one depot, one operator's concept we followed, and it is quite successful. I guess the tender of PMFSL is quite predictable. This GCC model and the PSM framework, it is all set now. It is ready to take off. Or it is quite predictable. There will not be any problem of finance. So I don't see any problem as of now as far as financing is concerned, predictability is concerned. The demand survey, that is a missing link, but I hope for have some alternate ideas, some technologies which can fill the gap for demand.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's very, very optimistic. Thank you so much for your participation, and it's wonderful to see Mahua lead the way. And now it's time for me to derive some pleasure by asking questions to media friends. Usually they ask questions, so this time they are going to be asked questions. We have 2 of the best mobility journalists, if we can call them that, in the room. Mr. Deepak Dash, who works with the Times of India, and Shivani Singh. Many of you are familiar with their work from Hindustan Times. Deepak sir, last year you were in this forum. I was moderating that too. It was called Personal to Public, and you were talking about bus lanes and how the narrative about bus lanes slowing down cars has caused the bus lane to disappear in Delhi. Has anything changed on the ground in terms of narratives, and how can we make people realize that the bus also needs speed, and you're not slowed down by the bus, but you're helped by bus? What are your observations on that?
Thanks a lot for reminding me what I said last time, so that I don't departure from that lane. So I think one point that all of the people in this room who largely don't use bus are talking about bus. That's the best part. Mobility is an economic activity. It is not something to be said. We had several debates. I know that Mohua does a conference every year. So I was in one panel. There were a member of parliament, some ministers, I said, I'll wait for a day when you come out of metro and enter the parliament. You don't do it yourself, but you tell it to others. Second point, busting is not happening primarily because we are not encouraging people to use buses. I am a bus traveler. Every time there is a VIP movement, the first casualty is bus. They will take the bus in a long route. So they will allow or permit 70 people to suffer for the benefit of one police commissioner, one minister. So if that is the issue, how can we make bus more attractive? That's my personal view. Second point, what everyone said, that there is a need to have a proper data system. I agree, but you also know that how things happen. There are consultancy firms. We call them tailors. Whatever the boss wants, the consultancy firm will give that thing. If you give him 2-meter cloth, he will say, sir, now a new design has come. On one shirt, you should put an overcoat. It looks beautiful. If you give them 1-meter cloth, they will say that take out the sleeve. That's a old fashion. So I think that there is a problem. Problem is intelligent people from academia, from media, from consultancy. Everyone is believing what the chair is saying. I think that's the problem. When chair becomes the hub of knowledge, that's a problem. And one thing everyone talked about, bringing buses. There are government officers here. There are politicians here. Let's start, having a bus system from New Motibag to Central Secretariat. Why don't you do it? But you tell everyone else to do that. I remember there was one secretary who used to say that, हमें cycle करना चाहिए. I said, sir, you take the cycle from New Motibag and come to Udyog Bhavan, Nirman Bhavan, transport होगा. आप गीला हो जाएंगे. So what I'm saying is, policies will change when people at the top will change. I remember former UD Minister Venkaiah Naidu used to say कि टंकी साफ है तो नल में पानी साफ आएगा.
So you have to translate that. Many of us, including me, don't understand that.
Venkaiah Naidu used to say, if the water in the overhead tank is clean, then in the pipe it will be clean. And you can see that happening in the government of India now. Whatever the boss at the top level thinks, PMO thinks, that happens. The rest of us, we only talk, nothing happens. I think time has come, people should start demanding, it should go to that level. Until that happens, you will discuss, I'll discuss, you will get 2 more consultancy, I'll write few articles, get byline, some officer will say, he will get a good, apar mark. I think public good will not happen that way. That's my personal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I think time has come for us to be less cynical and more optimistic. Thanks to media and social media, a lot of things are changing on the ground. Yes, there are old systems, and this forum itself, having politicians and officials and you on the same table and talking about creating a new ecosystem, is a testament to the fact that we are trying to change the way things are done. So we hope you will be part of that journey too. I was told that Ms. Surya will be joining us, and let me go to Shivani. Shivani, whenever I read your stories, I'm fascinated by where did she get this data from? How did she do this magic? Which magic AI does she have? And all over the things, how many people go to the airport? How many people go to airport in a bus? That's just one example. So many things like that. So what are your secret data sources and why are you not sharing with all of us? Tell us your trade secrets. That's your secret data source.
No, so, when we hit a roadblock, and which is quite often, because essentially what we have are human stories, and, human stories work well, but how to make it more compelling to people.
You should close the door.
Yeah. So you need data. You need data to establish facts. And like all, we face a lot of problem because the only authoritative data we have right now on mobility is the census data, which is hugely dated. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I understand there's a whole lot of work happening in different places, but for a common person, that data is not authoritative. What works is when Government of India says something, or the Ministry of Statistics says something, or your census or your all other surveys which come from the ministry, the household surveys. Those are the surveys which work. And often we face problems,
Please go.
yes, because that data is usually dated and we know that the mobility scene has completely changed. So I'm very happy that you're talking about this household survey data.
I will tell him that I've messaged him a couple of times saying I wanted to give a post.
Sir, can you go on mute, please? Professor Gowda, can you go on mute? Yeah. Rohan, you can step out of the room, maybe.
Yeah. Please continue.
Please continue. Apologies. Professor is trying to reach us.
Yes, so we do hit roadblocks. It's not very easy, and also essentially, I would like to say something. When we're looking at data, we look at data as in numbers, but there are stories behind data, and there are a whole lot of social, economic trends you can understand when you're looking at data on mobility. Unfortunately, a lot of it is not available to us because the data we have in the public domain is very, very dated. When I say societal trends, what kind of modal share is there?
One, I'll ask. Two. Please continue.
Yes. The kind of modal share that exists. Who is using data? Who is using what mode of transport to do what kind of journeys? What is the connectivity like? Okay, there's just too much focus on congestion, but we don't focus on how people are actually moving and where are they moving from to where. You can understand travel by looking at travel data. You can understand the employment. A lot of employment doesn't make it to the the statistical books and all because that is informal. Yes. You can also look at, just see how women are traveling. You can understand the demand for caregiving. And it is often a very, very overlooked, nobody really cares, if a woman is going to pick up their child or do other things. But your travel data can tell a lot of those stories. So these are things which I think is very much required. Another thing I would like to which somehow is missing and I've not found some, really authoritative data points, e-rickshaws and the popular transport.
In Delhi.
Yes. Especially in Delhi, this is something which is essentially looked at from the lens of last mile connectivity or, linked to metro or to buses. So my request to whoever is aggregating any kind of data is to, just step back and look at it as a mode of transport for many people who are completing their full journey on this. So these are essentially some...
Count all modes of transport, not just the main modes. Right? That's the point.
Because there's just, like you're talking about CMP. So the data is essentially on bus ridership, on, what kind of bus riders, how many would move to metro if metro is available.
Earlier we were talking, Dr. Rahul was saying, 10% walking doesn't make sense in any city. But some of our CMPs show that. So that is very much there. Now, I'll come back to you. I'd like to hear more from both you and Mr. Deepak on what makes media more, what kind of data makes media hold the powers to be more accountable in the terms of mobility. So maybe you can think of it. Professor Gowda, thank you so much for joining and waiting patiently. I know you have to go somewhere else, but I would like to invite you to join this nationwide ecosystem we are currently calling Shift Transport. The name might change at the end of this roundtable, but that's what we're thinking right now. So I hope that you can be a part of it. I already lured Mr. Gehlot into being part of it. So I hope you can join us, and any parting remarks before you leave, sir.
Well, count on it. Well, the basic point is, if you think about these kinds of interventions, there are planning authorities, there are departments of urban land transport. There's so much that the government has in place that the central MOHUA ministry, and it's really required that we actually have regular engagements to lay out plans and to think through how the actual process needs to be launched. The demand data is, of course, one part of it, but along with that, a sort of a proactive response from government. I think that's really vital. All of us, who don't have red light cars as they used to be, all of us also suffer in the same traffic. And I, of course, managed to get around a lot on metro, less on bus. But then now with the system improving, with data at bus stops telling us more about where which bus is coming next and how long to wait, etc. And once you start to see such apps on your phone, then you will be in a position to actually plan your first and last mile connectivity. And so we just need these extra interventions that I think can make a huge difference to our attitudes on taking public transport and basically getting from place to place without having to use personal vehicles. So all the best, and count on my involvement with the new year.
Thank you, sir. I must tell this room that when Professor Gowda was heading the manifesto committee of his party back in the elections, and he sought opinion from all the experts, and we told him, sir, modal share should be 75%, and he put as the first manifesto promise that we are going to hold your government accountable to, sir. Thank you very much for using data in the manifesto also. And we got flower pots for our politicians, plants for our politicians participating in it. Yours will be delivered locally in Bengaluru. A native plant will be given to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. We have Mr. Surya. Rohan?
Not yet. No.
Not yet. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, sir. You can log out now. Okay, so there's been a lot of talk about Delhi. Let's shift a little gears and go to Ahmedabad. Our good friend Abhijit is coming here from Ahmedabad. But then Abhijit also works on many, many cities across India and has been in this business for many years. So Abhijit, what I want you to share with us is your thoughts on, have you seen any good practices? Is any city using data for actually improving their system? Are there any best practices that can cross-pollinate, go from one city to another? What are your thoughts on that? And overall on this topic of data for decision making and this concept of coming together as an alliance to work on it. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Thanks, Srinivas. Yeah, so as you said, I am from Ahmedabad, but I think I have a very good example from Bangalore. A couple of years back, we were asked to do the logistics plan for Bangalore. And one of the big issues was data. And this requires to do a lot of roadside interviews and get information from goods, vehicles moving. And it was a huge exercise. We didn't have the time, we didn't have the resources. A very good example that happened in Bangalore was the use of GST data to actually capture movement of goods from outside Bangalore to within Bangalore. And I think that saved us a whole lot of time, which we would have otherwise spent on doing the roadside interviews. Having said that, it was very difficult to get this data. And this data actually is available with the government of India and should be very easily available and given to other people. It required interventions from DULT, writing multiple letters to Delhi to finally get data for 2 days. Because the data itself is so huge that it also required a lot of computing power to actually run that data. But I think for cities that are looking at doing city logistics planning, this is a very good source of data that Bangalore used. I believe Delhi also used. DIMS used it in Delhi. And I think that could be replicated. Yeah, it should be standardized. I think this is a very good example of doing that. The other example is closer to home, that is Ahmedabad. We are currently engaged in doing a parking management study for the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. And I find that there is a lot of perception about parking. And even Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation wants to build a lot of multi-level car parks. Wherever I think they feel that there's a perception that parking spillover is causing congestion, they want to build MLCPs. Ahmedabad has built around 4 or 5 in the last 10 years, and all of them are empty. There's no car parking happening there. Because street parking is free. Okay. Nobody wants to get in. And most of them were not based on data. They were based on a perception that there is spillover that is causing congestion. and a lot of public money was spent on building these. So now when we are doing this parking management plan, we are going back to basics. We are saying we should have only data inform us what has to be done here. And when we finished the survey in one of the zones in Ahmedabad, we found out that actually there is no spillover. There is spillover, but it's not a huge problem. There is actually a lot of parking available off street.
Right.
Which is not, free. Sometimes, especially in Ahmedabad, where you have mixed land use, we have parking which is lying empty during the daytime because residential colonies have people go out and that parking is empty, while parking in malls or commercial complexes is empty at some other time. And if only you could start sharing this parking, a lot of this expensive infrastructure could actually be avoided. So in Ahmedabad, we are actually using a lot of this data to make the point that, and I'm sure many other cities will find that parking is not as big a problem as it is perceived to be. If only you start counting what you have and what is the demand and start matching. Obviously, you'll have to support it with good walking streets so that, a short distance can be walked, or you need to have good public transport. And then you can bring in aspects of sustainable transport. At what price point are people willing to shift? To shift to good public transport, then what kind of public transport has to be given? But the starting point is data to make the point. Even to politicians, even to people in the standing committee, this makes a huge difference when they look at numbers. The last point about this entire collective, this entire platform, I think it's an excellent idea. And for a long, long time, I used to wonder, as a consultant, what would happen if my data needs were solved and I could get into the analysis. And because a lot of time goes in and I'm sure a lot of private consultants here will agree with that. A lot of time goes into data collection. And even that data sometimes is suspect. And then we start relying on secondary sources. We try to extrapolate based on assumptions. And that's not a really good idea.
Right.
So a good data source, a standard data source that cities can provide to all consultants, I think makes huge sense.
I think all consultants should unite to get data standards out. What data you need. It's my great pleasure and honor to invite our Member of Parliament from our own city, Bengaluru, Mr. Tejasvi Surya. So welcome to this gathering. We know you had a very busy day. You are traveling somewhere in this country and still took time to be part of it. For those of you that have been following Mr. Surya online, he's become like the latest champion for moving people and not vehicles. And he's creating so much awareness about why it makes sense for cities to go the sustainable mobility way and the mass transport way. So without taking any more time, sir, your remarks in this forum where we are trying to talk about how to make mobility decisions based on data and evidence instead of personal choice or biases about cars and congestion and things like that. Please go ahead. Yeah, you're on. Unmute yourself. You're still on mute.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we can hear.
Host was not unmuting me. Thank you so much, Srinivas, and all the organizers for, first of all, organizing this very important initiative to discuss such a pressing issue. I am currently in Lucknow, and just before coming here, I was on stage with the Honorable Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath ji, and we were discussing about urbanization, urban flooding, urban planning, and the same issues. And he said that in his experience of last few years, governing such a populous and difficult state like Uttar Pradesh, he said that the next biggest challenge for India's growth, as well as the opportunity for India's growth, lies in untapped urban potential. And I think all of us, agree that conversations like the one that you have organized today, especially with consultants, people who have access to data and insights that are based on data. Conversations such as this will play a very important role in making important public decisions. Now, let me be very brief. I am, like most of you and like most of the people in Bengaluru, a victim of bad urban transport planning. And I also feel that as a representative of the public, as a member of parliament representing one of the most vibrant, dynamic constituencies of the country, which is also, affected so badly with traffic congestion, it becomes all the more our duty to voice our concerns, issues, and also champion the right methods of making these decisions. So the position that I come from is deeply personal because I am a victim of this every day. Every day I come back from the airport. It takes almost 2.5 hours for me to reach airport, and it is killing so much of productivity. It is literally draining the city. Now, this is not the case unique to just Bengaluru. Almost all urban cities in India are facing the very same problems: lack of proper planning, prioritizing moving of vehicles and road infrastructure over, a citizen-centric, movement-centric, people-centric infrastructure, and whether it is Mumbai, whether it is Gurgaon, whether it is Pune, Noida, this is the state everywhere. I think two things are important. One, pursuant to the delimitation that will happen before the next elections, we are hopeful that there will be a far larger representation of urban seats in our assembly constituencies and parliament. This is going to give a big and much needed fillip and a much needed political capital for a lot of urban issues. Second, I think I am seeing all over the country a new generation of political leaders who primarily come from an urban background. Until now, most of our political leaders were typically the rural background, son of the soil types. But now, with the change of demography, the change of urbanization in India, there will be a new generation of political leaders who come from urban areas and are victims of bad urban planning, etc. So I think responsibility of organizations like WRI and the initiatives like the ones that you are doing are all the more important to educate this new breed of policymakers to understand the need for data-based decision making and not, decisions based on political whims and fancies. Now, third point is this: in Bangalore, we have been seeing, and I want to be very clear. I'm being very party agnostic. Whether it was, political parties earlier, and more so in the case of the present dispensation, many infrastructure decisions are being taken very whimsically. So the deputy chief minister makes a visit to Hebbal and then realizes, okay, there is a traffic jam. So he proposes an underpass or a flyover. Then he goes to Silk Board and feels, okay, something else needs to be done, and says, okay, let's have a double-decker flyover here. So most of these, band-aid solutions are being given in extremely whimsical fashion. So I think that needs to stop. And I think the education of political leaders, especially those who are currently chief ministers and deputy CMs all across the country, needs to be done on a war footing to educate them on infrastructure that moves people and not vehicles. And all over the country, I feel personally, I had a conversation recently with a couple of chief ministers from, my party. They all are very keen to understand how to solve this problem. And they also are willing to put the necessary political capital behind doing this. The next point I want to make is this. Why we speak about creating awareness, data-based decisions, etc., it is also important to create and build adequate state capacity in our corporations. Srinivas, we had discussed this even earlier. Right. Our Bangalore Corporation, until yesterday it was BBMP and today it is Greater Bangalore Authority. The name may change, the officers remain the same. And the state capacity is woefully inadequate. I had asked them how many urban planners, how many, skilled traffic engineers, traffic management professionals they had on their roads. Woefully, in fact, no, they don't even have 5 or 6 of them for a city as big as Bangalore with 1.5 crore people. So I think building the state capacity, especially at our urban local body levels, is also extremely important, because without that we will be shooting in the dark. The other point that I want to also mention, though this is a little far-fetched, or rather not directly connected to urban transport, is the importance of having strong urban local bodies as governance mechanisms. You cannot be planning urban transport from Delhi for all cities. You can't be planning urban transport for Mangalore sitting in Bangalore. So you need to empower our local bodies. And unfortunately, 67% of India's urban local bodies have not had adequate, have not had timely elections, have not been given adequate political and financial resources. And this, I think, this lack of institutional capacity and respect for local body institutions has been the root cause for a lot of urban problems in India. I think that also needs to be addressed on a important, footing. Lastly, I only want to say this. Time and again, we have been realizing, both in India as well as outside, that more roads is not the solution for traffic congestion. More public transport, which is comfortable, reliable, accessible, and has a wide, dense network, is the only solution for addressing, traffic congestion. The latest case in point is the inauguration of the one flyover, the Hebbal flyover in, Bangalore, and also the Yellow Line in Bangalore. The inauguration of the Yellow Line had a immediate effect in the reduction of traffic in Silk Road. And some studies said there was a reduction in almost up to 10% traffic. Reduction of 10% private vehicles on that stretch. But even after the inauguration of a new flyover in Hebbal, we had the same traffic jams that was plaguing even before the inauguration of that plan. So there are multiple instances proving that more traffic, more roads, more flyovers, more underpasses will only create more private vehicles and more traffic. What our cities need to invest in is effective last mile, first mile connectivity, and dense metro networks and bus systems. I know, Srinivas, you have been an extremely vocal proponent of bus systems, but I still feel that our investments, public investment in bus infrastructure all across our cities is woefully inadequate. In fact, even in cities like Mumbai, which once boasted a very robust, bus system like PEST, today we don't see as much investment being made in the bus infrastructure systems in our cities. I also feel that India and Indian cities must definitely look at tram services. The modern trams that you find today in Amsterdam, in Melbourne, and many other cities. It's a great pre-metro and a short distance, system that we should definitely consider. I have requested the Union Minister for Rail, Ashwini Vaishnavji, to facilitate and commission a feasibility study in how we can use modern tram services in Bangalore to create the metro network more denser. This is more cheaper than metro. It is more easier to build than metro because it is at surface level. You don't have to build new stations. You don't have to go underground or overground. It is much easier. These are multiple initiatives that need to be taken to decongest our cities. In addition to that, in the last minute, because a lot of congestion or traffic problems do not always, need not always be addressed by road-centric or transport-centric solutions. A lot of these solutions are also with respect to how we plan our cities. So more mixed use cities, more transit-oriented development initiatives, more land value capture for our urban infrastructure, MRTS plans. I think these also need to get factored into our urban planning, which will make life of our people in the cities much better. We also need to be concerned about urban sprawl, each time I'm landing into a city, I see how the urban sprawl is just increasing in every Indian city. That is not how we can build sustainable and value creating cities. We need to also comprehensively look at our FAR policies, how we can, have more vertical development, how we can have more denser, development in cities to really benefit from urban agglomeration. I think a complete relook at urban development and urban planning is what is necessary in India. And the fact that we are having such conversations at multiple levels is an indication that we are waking up to the problem. And I just hope that authorities, irrespective of political party affiliations, irrespective of state, center, and local municipal differences, come together to address this very important need. Because by 2030, we will have more number of Indians living in urban areas than in rural areas. And this is a very pressing problem and an untapped economic potential for the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Surya. That's 10 minutes of packed agenda setting for the next this term and hopefully many more terms that you'll have. May we take it for with your consent that you can help us put together a roundtable for new generation urban parliamentarians as well as the chief ministers in the coming days, so we can bring more awareness and do sessions like this with people in the decision making positions.
Absolutely, Srinivas. In fact, I'm telling you in this forum, I'm making it public. About 2-3 weeks ago, I had a very detailed meeting with the Chief Minister of Delhi, Rekha Gupta ji. And we had a very detailed discussion on these very issues. And, I in fact suggested that she meet representatives from WRI to understand how every money that the government of Delhi spends should be spent in building more public infrastructure and not on more roads. She was, very keen. She is very keen to meet, representatives from your organization. I'll set up a meeting. And my also request is, I will want all of you to spend some time at state levels, because a lot of these discussions and these decisions will happen at state level. So there are so many MLAs who are young. I know young MLAs from Pune, from Mumbai, who are all very keen to actually deliver. But they just need to be educated on all of these things. And that's, I think, that public education for policymakers is something that we should really champion. And I want to also say one more thing, Srinivas. In Bangalore, I have seen this in the last 6 years. There is a real hunger and urgency in elected representatives to actually make a change. Because we have, we have to go to people in 5 years. I don't see the same kind of urgency in the bureaucracy. Yesterday you have seen the notification that the state government has drawn, appointing the officers for the Greater Bangalore Authority. So earlier it was the same officers who were in charge for BBMP. And now it's the very same officers who are in charge of the GBA. So the form may change, the structure of the organization may change, but the officers will remain the same. So, I can tell you 20 infrastructure projects in Bengaluru that have been delayed from 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And all the officers who were in charge of these have all gotten promoted to becoming chief secretaries, under secretaries and everything, while the projects have still remained that way. My only point is that the education that you need to do has to focus on political leaders, because we have a mandate of 5 years to actually show governance and delivery to people. I look forward to working with you together on this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That is the intent of this roundtable and this initiative, because how long do we keep talking inside our echo chambers and in our expert rooms? But we really need to work with people like you and your colleagues in the legislatures, in the parliament, and in the CMOs and the PMOs. That's how we want to take this conversation. We once again thank you so much. sir, for joining us and giving us your valuable insights into this subject. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Srinivas, and apologies again for not being there physically with all of you. Thank you.
Next time we'll do that. Thank you. Great. So we still have about half the round table to go to in about 30 minutes left on this session. I request everyone to share their views. Let me quickly go to Cornelia. She is joining us from the ZIZ team. Cornelia, we had this conversation before this session also. We were talking about, some of us had a technical session before this session. And one of the things you are telling me, which was quite exciting for me, is you said simply, we must do this. So why did you say we must do this, and how do you think we can bring people together, different agencies, multilateral, bilateral, globally? How can we support an initiative like this?
Yes, thank you. So it's a very short citation of my
long comment.
No, it was not a long comment, but it was not as short as you made it. But yeah, thank you first for this interesting discussion. And I think what I feel is the fragmentation of the discussions here and there and everywhere in all departments, in all ministries, on city level, national level, state level, NGOs, consultants, etc. pp. The fragmentation brings a big problem, and therefore I said we must do it to bring all the data together, also to have a common understanding. What do we mean with data? What are the relevant data? How do we want to collect them? How do we want to model them? I mean, in Europe in the moment is modeling to make it more visible, visualize, to get the people with us. I think this is one of the big parts which is always discussed. And I thought, yes, the initiative here to organize such a roundtable is a good initiative to bring us together. However, I mentioned it in the meeting before, the question for me is also MOHUA, MHI, whoever is concerned.
State government.
How do we, I mean, you ask in the moment everybody, do you want to be part of it? Do you want to be part of it? I think it's a good thing, but I think it's necessary. It's very necessary. And yes, to make it short, because we only have a couple of minutes left, but I'm happy to be part of this group. And
we had a lot of questions planned for you, including the care mobility that Shivani was talking about. And if we do magically have more time, we'll come to you. But right now, we both know that may not be the case. Do we still have the Kumta person online? Abhishek, is it? Aditya? Okay, let me go to Professor Rahul and Saurabh. I've heard that both of you guys did some magic in Delhi with the Devi buses and did all kinds of analysis. The fact that Mr. Gehlot referred to your work so many times and Shivani claimed that you are a secret source tells me that there is a lot going on there, Rahul. So would you share your wisdom about what you learned doing all this stuff? And how can we standardize these things and what can we do to bring it together? Then I'll go to Saurabh right after you, because I heard that both of you collaborated on some of these things. So it'll be good to weave that story using Delhi as a case study. That's my wish, but you're free to go beyond that.
Thank you, Srinivas. So, I'm a very cynical person, and it's very rare that I commend a politician for what they do for transportation. But I'll tell you one thing, that Mohalla bus, which is now Devi bus, is one of the most progressive public transportation intervention we have. From the get-go, the objective of this intervention was to provide public transportation in places which do not have access to public transportation to begin with, and that has been something that has always bothered me, the inequality of public transportation access. I know we talk about metro rail network and wide network in Delhi, but if you see access to metro network, the best access to metro in Delhi is the richest localities in Delhi, and the poorest access to metro are the ones that are the poorest people, and the poorest people in Delhi also have poor access to the buses. And by the way, the reason we have this poor access to public transportation is not simply because we have incompetent bus operators. It is also because our land use and the housing that has developed in Delhi for many, many years has been in such a way that there is so much housing developed in Delhi through private developers, who did not care about the street network. There were not wide streets provided, and all of this is very socio-economically linked. The poorer you are, the more likely you are to be living in those places. So anyway, the point is the objective behind Devi buses or Mohalla buses was to provide access to those places. The reason it was kept that the design of the buses should be shorter in length was to circumvent that problem that you have to go to these very narrow places. And to Mr. Gehlot's credit, when he came to our office a year ago, one thing he said is, I want you to find out those places in the city which are the poorest and also have worst access to buses. And those are the places where I want to first implement Devi buses. And I think one of the reasons we Indian cities have such large usage of what's called IPT, paratransit, is also because of that. That our built environment is such that you cannot have access to formal transportation. And that is why a large part of public transportation in cities are run by these private run paratransit. And these are very essential. It makes me extremely sad that those people are never represented in any discussions. Much of those people are also harassed by police. There's a lot of informality in how police decides in what areas those rickshaws should be operated and in what areas they should. So there is a lot of this gray area of public transportation in our cities, and those people are not at all ever in these discussions ever. They are also, by the way, all electric run vehicles. So they are. I mean, they check all the boxes of a progressive, a very clean public transportation. And I think I'll give it to Saurabh to talk about the other parts of Devi bus planning.
Right. Thanks, Rahul. So I think he covered the larger need for Devi buses, how it was brought about, and sort of the larger intent around it. Just getting to the technical specifics of it. We started building a route planning algorithm which could sort of match supply and demand. I come from a logistic and supply chain optimization background, and I was obsessed with the idea that, hey, our transit is so broken, we can fix this, similar to how logistics and supply chain organizations and industry sort of fix it. How do they match supply and demand? So we did that, but then we came across this roadblock that we had no demand data available. We just didn't know where people need to travel, where do they travel, and an additional temporal layer sort of comes into place because transit demand is origin, destination, and time of day. So when do people need to travel, and from where and where they need to travel? So we collaborated with IIT. We aggregated a lot of data sources like mobile phone GPS signals, telematics data. We're starting to work with telecom operators now. We started procuring these data sets, which are very raw, individual GPS pings of devices, anonymized for privacy reasons, but trying to identify where people are traveling. We started to make sense of them, validating and calibrating them against primary sources of data, started using Delhi Metro ridership, traffic survey counts, etc. Calibrate against those primary data sources, time use survey, and built a very granular travel demand model for the city, which is granular enough to a mohalla, neighborhood level, rather than typically what is done at a ward level. Because neighborhoods need to be identified, which need to be connected. Because if you're doing it at a larger aggregated ward level, you lose out on the intricacies of where in this ward more people need connectivity versus others. We started mapping out the supply models as well. We did primary surveys where we mapped out all e-rickshaw routes operating in the city, where we had people sitting in e-rickshaws across the city with a GPS device. We mapped out where these e-rickshaws today operate. That was another secondary signal. We started figuring out at an OD level, we talk about public transport accessibility, but that's very often unidimensional. How much access a person has to a transit stop. But transit accessibility is two dimensions. A person needs to go from A to B. How good is the connectivity between origin and destination? And the competition of public transport is driving. So we figured out between all OD pairs in the city, if it takes you 20 minutes to drive, how much worse is transit comparatively for the same OD pair? So we built these supply and demand models, and then we sort of started using a decision support system to sort of say, ki, hey, this is the supply, this is where the supply connectivity is poor, this is where the demand is, because we don't have infinite resources, so we need to still segment and target the places where the supply is the worst, the demand is the highest, and that's where we need to augment our public transport system. And that's where we formed the route network for Delhi Devi buses. And apart from this collaboration, I think the Delhi government was very supportive in terms of, and sort of forward thinking in terms of using technology, using some of these non-traditional data sources, etc., to figure out, yes, at the end of the day, we want to get a good transport system out. This probably is the best way forward.
No, I think all I'll say in the interest of time is that you guys should write about this. If it's already been written, please publish it. I'll also point out to my colleague Beena sitting here. She had a data team in Bengaluru. They did some phenomenal work recently. I'm sure they've done it in other places, but they're trying to find the transit deserts, which is similar to what you are talking about. And I think there is more to collaborate here. And both of you need to share your findings on how to find these public transit deserts. So that will be very valuable for MLAs and MPs. You know, if their own constituents are not getting buses, if you're helping them get the buses, they are going to get votes. It's as simple as that. Why are we not giving them that information? And this has come out very strongly from Mr. Tejasvi Surya's, right? You need to educate us. He's simply telling us, educate us, we'll do a better job. So I think it's a call to all of us to reach out to them. So we'll do that. Sir Lohia, sir, sorry to keep you waiting. You have enormous experience in this subject. You worked on many, many projects. I was told that station development is one of the very successful programs. What are your thoughts on this subject, sir? How do we go forward from this?
This sounds like a good story.
Thank you, Srinivas. Thanks, WRI, for giving me this opportunity to be here. In fact, all this discussion is now music to my ears, because there was a time when, as Joint Secretary, it was a fight to put ITS on buses. And it was a fight which I was fighting against the whole country, because all STUs, all the bus makers, everybody was against that. But yes, having crossed that hurdle, we are here today when we are discussing that how we utilize the data, how we have the democratization of data, how do we find those, using the data, the deserts which you are talking, and also connect this data with the land use pattern, because many times, unless and until you are only focusing on the traffic and traffic congestion. So traffic congestion is where you are, when you are studying an urban area, it is like a flow of water. So it will try to find the easiest path. So if you are not having any other road, there was a mention that the rich areas are very well served. Bangalore is having certain issues of traffic. So in Bangalore, when we studied as compared to other cities, the issue is that you do not have a road network. You are only having few arterial roads, and you are forcing everybody to come on those arterial roads, and then causing congestion, and then trying to solve that congestion. Ahmedabad, on the other hand, tried to resolve that by having a proper network. They have connected many missing links. So that important area, which is part of the, I would say, land use and transport integration, falls off the mind when you are discussing only about urban transport.
Right.
So that is why when we developed the service level benchmarks for urban transport, so urban transport is a very complicated, I would say, puzzle. So it's not just about technology, it's not just about data, it's not just about infrastructure, it's not just about political will. It is not just about capacity building. It is a combination of a lot of things put together, and so many agencies, because parking was being told that people make parking and the parking are not being used. I give you one example. In Jaipur, Johari Bazaar, because there is a lot of congestion there, a lot of vehicles definitely go, there was a need for a multi-level park. And having visited that, my only suggestion to the Principal Secretary Urban Development and the Principal Secretary Transport who accompanied me was that if you actually want this to be made successful and not have the same situation with your roads still busy with traffic, kindly have two things integrated. Number one, this multi-level parking contractor who should be managing has to provide the last mile connectivity through the this golf cart, etc., or some electric vehicle, so that people after dropping their car can actually be dropped to the places, because people might be having certain issues about traveling. There might be issues of weather. Right. So unless until you think of that lastest mile connectivity, you are missing. Second, the same contractor should also have the responsibility of keeping the influence zone empty of the vehicles. Let the police be provided to them, so that it is his vested interest that the streets be empty and the parking be full. Create that vested interest. And they did it, and it was successful. So we have to use all those things effectively to the end of delivery what we want. You said, how do we bring all these people, different stakeholders on the table? When we were making the urban bus specifications version 2, and it was, I would say, all the manufacturers were there, all the IT experts were there, STUs were there, and we had, I would say, at least 50 stakeholders. We had made urban bus specification version 1, and we realized that people wanted something which can be easily tendered out. And they were just putting those urban bus specification version 1 as the tender specification, and we had made a performance specification. So we had to make detailed specification and also looking forward as to how the country should move. So there, again, we said we will set the parameters of the game or the rules of the game before we start playing the game.
Right.
And in between, whosoever it is will have to adjust, so that nobody comes and pressurizes, kindly make this a specification so that it suits this particular manufacturer or that particular manufacturer. Because otherwise that would have been a very tough job, because everybody was trying to influence so that the things get rooted in their direction. And of course, we used whatever data with the experts which we had, and we have been taking data from various sources in terms of what is available technology and where can we go. So we said that nation and citizens for whom we work, these are the only two parameters in which we will work. Two broader things. In between, everybody has to adjust. Is it acceptable? Nobody could have said no, that we'll go against the nation or we'll go against the people. Everybody said yes. We said okay. And within, I think, 30 to 40 days, we had very detailed urban bus specification which are still in operation, UBS2.
UBS.
Though they have not been notified by the government, but the industry has adopted, and everybody says UBS2. When we came out, Mr. Bhanu was mentioning about the National Common Mobility Card. So when we came out with that concept in 2009, aim was again, how can we facilitate the entire movement?
Right.
How can we facilitate at least the fair payment system, which is possible. With one credit card, you can move the entire world. Why should you not be able to move with one common mobility card across the nation, across all modes? And at that time, yes, it was a huge challenge because the idea was too far ahead of its time. People declared me mad. But Honorable Prime Minister launched that card in 2019, and now it has been made mandatory that all RuPay debit cards are to be NCMC compliant. And that can generate huge amount of data. So yes, we are having, a lot of work has already been done in terms of setting up. I think Mr. Bhanu mentioned that we need a centralization first of, because there are certain things when it comes to standardization, collation, and then distribution. So there has to be a process of democratization, but there has to be somebody, central body, to do that standardization, to take that lead, to make the things interoperable. Then and then only the things will happen on the ground. I'll stop here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I mean, there's so much wisdom in that, and your work is there for all of us to see. The bus standards and the NCMC and standardization, interoperability are extremely important. We are kind of running out of time, but I don't want to miss the wisdom of the esteemed panelists here, roundtable participants. And I do want to tell you that we are going to take a few more minutes, and I'll come to all of you for one final question. So please be ready for that, and I want rapid fire responses for that. Okay, so Sumit, I was told that you are one of the biggest GIS experts in the country, and you understand how to do geospatial data, and you have some special knowledge about mobility and geospatial, how to do this. So you are hearing all this conversation very patiently. Those of you that haven't spoken, Kashmira, Dr. Pranamesh, thank you so much for being so patient. What is your takeaway from all this? And do you think that the technology of GIS and geospatial analysis techniques have reached a level now that have never been seen before? Therefore, they should help us in designing cities and mobility systems better.
So first part, I am not the kind words you said. The more important part is, yes, geospatial technology is in a very inflection point right now because of a lot of things that are going on. In fact, I was just mentioning that moving objects databases, the analysis of trajectory data, a lot of phenomenal work has come in. Now, what is important in the context of what we are discussing here is all that data. I think one important thing that Saurabh mentioned, temporal granularity. All the data has to be spatio-temporal. We have to have the framework temporal. I think before we started speaking about, how for practical use of comprehensive mobility, for planning, all the planning that we do, it has to incorporate the temporal part because that is where people have their stories. That is where people don't have stories. I went from Mumbai to Delhi and came back. I went from Mumbai to Delhi on that and that day. It was so crowded. This is how it works. And that is what the politician will also be able to relate to. The people will be able to relate to. So, yes, our data has to be spatio-temporally enabled. And I think in the Chintan Shivir where many of us were there, we had advocated a lot of push for open data. A lot of the data that is created, government money. If not government money, even still, if there is some people have put together data, if that is pushed as open, I think the open analytics also, it's not just the data, the analytics also being available for people. The open data and open analytics, these two will enable the three I think the theme that we started with.
Open data analytics.
Yeah, so those are the things. Of course, there is an inflection point in terms of technology itself, but I think more than that, the platform to have that enabled, I think we should. And we have discussed this with Mahua also, that, the CMPs can be made
standardized.
Yeah, it can be made spatio-temporal rather than just spatial. So that's the simple takeaway from my side. Thank you.
We really appreciate that. I know there's a lot more where that came from. So we look forward to having more opportunities. Dr. Pranamesh, so one of the three pillars is the transport data analytics, and that is your area of work. So have you observed that because of availability of more data now, however non-standardized it may be, the job of analytics has become easier, or is it more complicated because there's no standards or interoperability? Your thoughts on analyzing data and what could a platform like this, an alliance like this, do towards that? Can someone pass the mic to him, please? Yeah.
Oh. Hi. So thank you. Anna on the way.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I think one of the primary things that I work on is let's say cameras. One of the important use it is because, okay, I do not have to care really about the standards a lot of the time. Even if it is the standards, I want to be in the way that, okay, so I can go out of the standards. Like I do not need a fixed height or things like that because I know that is not possible to have every time. So given this data that we are coming out of it, we understand that there will be like non-standards. Some of the times we would definitely love to have it in like these standards, but with the advancement of the technologies, I think we can have the data still in terms of non-standards, but we can still try to process them. Obviously, there can be large number of anomalies that can be there that still needs to be handled. But this kind of a data portal is like really useful. Like one of the times I will say that we posted one of the challenge in one of the most premium conferences where we made the data open for everyone all across the world, and there were like more than yes. So more than like 400 teams participated from all over the world, which is the top universities. So if we start making the data sources open source, obviously with anonymity being preserved, then the institutions and even the students who are interested to do research, like a lot of the times we see that the students are interested to do research on the Indian problems that they are facing, but they don't get those data. So therefore they don't see that, okay, I work on a problem which is actually we are facing on the roads, which we are facing nearby. So when we get those data sources open out, then the students or any others who are interested can really work on and make some knowledge or insights out of it. And also the insights, if we make in the way which is something like apps, like someone was saying, or chatbots or things like that, because people are moving towards those. So we can make those kind of portals available where they take the apps, take the data, and give the information in the way that people want, because people in general will not be aware of doing like a strong analytics by themselves. But if they can talk in terms of language, if the portal is also talking in terms of language, then it's much more easier and interpretable to everyone around. So that is my take.
No, thank you, and thanks Avinash for showing that. So that's the framework that we're talking about. Like I mentioned, we had a technical conversation before this roundtable began, and this is the 3 pillars of the Shift Transport initiative we're talking about. How do you create common goods, then democratize it so that anyone can do anything with it, and finally this kind of dialogues and collaboration platform. So thanks for bringing that back to the conversation. So that made us bring the slide back as well. So Kashmira, you must be hating me right now for making you wait, but I know who's suffering even more. Aditya from Kumta. At least you're in the room, but he's online and listening to this for 2 hours now. Can we bring Aditya on the screen, please? Zoom. He's on Zoom. Okay. While he comes, Kashmira, to you. ITDP, one of the most important mobility organizations internationally and in India. You've been doing a lot of work in multiple cities, most notably that I've noticed and following the work in Chennai and PCMC and all of that. The question to you in the context of this roundtable is, what are the data systems that you discovered in this process? Have you created any? And even more importantly, have you done any cross-learning from Chennai to PCMC and Pune to Chennai and things like that? And you've been very patient, so feel free to talk about any other thing that comes to mind in this context.
Thank you so much, Srinivas. So just going back to what Mr. Kailash Galot had actually mentioned, he had quoted Enrique Penalosa. Now, I had the pleasure of hearing him back in 2013 in Chennai. And his storytelling moved me to an extent where the very next day, I went and bought my first cycle as an adult. Now, not all of us, unfortunately, are great storytellers like the way he was. Now, for a lot of us transport planners, mobility planners, our love language is data, right? Because data is the way a city is able to narrate that story. It's able to understand how are people moving. It's able to understand what are some of the challenges that people are facing. But there is always that challenge, that gap where the city is unable to read its own story. Now, that is where ITDP has been working very closely with Pimpri Chinchwad as well as Chennai. Now, in Pimpri-Chinchwad, what we realized is that there was a bit of a disconnect between what, actually not just Pimpri-Chinchwad, many cities, there's a bit of a disconnect in what the cities commit to in terms of policies or regulations, guidelines, mandates, and in terms of how much it's actually investing in that particular infrastructure. Now, one such data where we feel is constantly being overlooked is budgets, your municipal budgets. And when we started digging deeper into what PCMC has actually been doing, I mean, the results were great in the sense that, almost 20% continuously over the past 3 years, 20% of its budget is being allocated towards transport, and 55% of its transport budget is actually being allocated towards sustainable transport projects. But a large focus continued to be on NMT because those were projects that were, committed to at the state level by the city. But a huge gap was evident in its public transport budget. But when we were able to bring that to light to the city to let them know that this is where your gap actually is, in a matter of months' time, you had the commissioner, you had other folks within the city and at the state level committing to 1,000 buses for the city immediately based on the analysis that was done. But the point here is that, where there are data gaps, where there is information that, you're not able to access, could we templatize these systems as well? And I think we were very lucky with Pimpri-Chinchwad, and I use the word lucky because when we try to analyze data in terms of municipal budgets in very many other Indian cities, we were unable to do so. The templates were extremely difficult to understand. There was no standardization. I mean, there were no templates to begin with. With Pimpri-Chinchwad, I think we got very lucky, and a lot of those learnings we were able to bring to Chennai as well. And based on analysis that was actually conducted on Chennai's municipal budgets, we were able to secure a 200 crore budget for its streets project. So I think for organizations like us, we use this sort of data to change the way the city actually perceives and change the way that cities actually commit to infrastructure and services. So for an organization like us, I think it's worked really well. And, going back to where you were saying that we need to come together to bring all this data and information, I think budgets is also something that can be brought on as an added layer for cities to reflect on. So what they're committing to, is it actually reflected in their budgets and what they're actually spending?
No, it's mind-blowing. It's one of the biggest success stories that hasn't really been told. And you're a great storyteller, though you claim the opposite. Love language is data. I mean, that's the headline that takes away from even the members of parliament. The budget is a big story in both Chennai and Pune. And you know what we did when I heard this story? We promptly got ITDP to talk to the Bangalore Bus Corporation MD. And got ITDP to present to them what they've done. So he got super excited. He said, now I got a strength to go ask for more money because these guys have done this. So this is how data travels. This is how analytics travel, right? So they took it, someone else took it, brought them into a room, and hasn't happened yet, but maybe we'll get a few 100 crores out of this. So Aditya from Kumta. First, I think, can we bring him on screen, please? On Zoom, sir? Okay, that's a little too much to handle. Did he finally give up on us? Aditya, you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Except that they're only showing me.
Okay.
1 second, Aditya, 1 second. Can you turn on your video?
Yeah, my video is on.
Ah, there. Okay, first, can everyone give a round of applause to Aditya for being so patient?
Thank you.
So,
no, thank you.
One second. There is only one organization in this country, one city has this organization that actually its business is to do data analytics and give budgetary inputs, planning inputs to transport agency, and that is Kumta. They were on a session yesterday, made an excellent presentation. I'm glad they're back today. And Aditya, tell us quickly what Kumta is doing. Kumta is an institutional setup for urban metropolitan planning. And I hope that by the time we meet for the next Connect Karo, there will be many other Kumtas in Pune, in Mumbai, in Delhi, everywhere. But do share your views, Aditya.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Srinivas, and thank you. It was a great conversation to listen to so far, and I'm honored to be a part of this panel representing Kumta. So, as you mentioned, Kumta, I think Chennai, we are at present the only UMTA that has a dedicated team, and we have a team of about 20, 25 people, and our job is to coordinate between the different agencies working on transport in the Chennai metropolitan area. And as you're aware, across Indian cities, transport tends to be quite a fragmented business with multiple agencies that are working on this subject, and their efforts don't always tend to complement each other. So at Kumta, we have the unique honor of working with all of these agencies and ensuring that the planning efforts make the implementation also happen in such a manner that the transport in the city achieves the larger urban mobility goals. So, as I mentioned, we have a dedicated team of about 20 people. So, we have planners, but we also have a team just for data. So, we have a team of 4 people who work purely on data as well. And we have worked over this past 3 years that Kumta has had a dedicated team that has been set up and working towards the urban mobility planning in Chennai. So there are a lot of strategic planning initiatives that have been taken up, including the comprehensive mobility plan, which is nearing its final stage. And there's also the city logistics plan and bus route rationalization and other studies as well. And of course, we rely heavily on the data. And for our comprehensive mobility plan, we had an extensive round of surveys with about 50,000 household surveys that were done across the Chennai metropolitan area. And at this point, we are about to complete the comprehensive mobility plan as well. But the thing that we are actually planning is also that we want to set up a proper framework for ensuring that we monitor and evaluate the progress of the comprehensive mobility plan itself over the 25-year of the plan period. So there are a number of key performance indicators that have been achieved. And our goal is that over these 25 years, every year, annual, sometimes biannual periods, like we'll be monitoring and evaluating the different aspects to see that our city is actually moving towards the urban mobility goals that have been set out in the CMP. And for this, of course, the data collection is a huge process. So we are also looking at leveraging data from other sources, including mobile phone data and GPS data. I think one of our panelists also brought up that very important point. And another point I'd just like to make quickly on the city logistics plan, Abhijit Lokre sir mentioned about getting the data from GST for the CLP for Bangalore. Unfortunately, we've not been lucky enough to get that data for Chennai, though we've been trying really hard, but we've not been able to get the data. So I think it's really important that these kind of things are standardized, so it's not such a challenge even for a government organization to get this data to work on studies such as this. And I think lastly, I'd just like to highlight that we have a digital Chennai platform that we are also working on. Like I said, we have a data team. And the goal is that we have a unified urban data platform, which will have the data for all departments working across on urban mobility across the Chennai metropolitan area. And it will also serve as a project planning platform in the future. So that's something that we're also in the early stages of. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Aditya. I think Kumta is going to be very busy next few weeks, as pretty much everyone in this room will want to have a meeting with you soon. So get ready for that. Okay, rapid fire round. I need one sentence response. Sonal, shall we do Menti? She's not sure. We prepared extensive Menti and then we dropped the idea because we're running out of time. Try to bring it up and see what we can do. But I'll start with Saurav and go through the room. The question is very simple. 1 or 2 sentences. And if there's anything else that you really wanted to say and didn't get an opportunity, now you ignore my instructions and say that also, right? I'm just giving you that, right? So question is this: should we build this platform? Will you be part of it? What do you think should be the topmost priority of it? So the clock starts now and Saurav is under a lot of pressure right now. Go ahead. We should, yes.
You need to figure out how will you encourage people to participate, whether it be monetization for private organizations like us or for students to contribute. They will need some GitHub type of rank scoring mechanisms, which bounty hunters, etc. Something which encourages people to participate. But yes,
keep going.
But what you need to take into account is what you're trying to solve for. Fix your audience. I think the audience today is too broad. We need to narrow down.
That's a great input. So some GitHub kind of thing where people can contribute. So excellent input. Someone please make notes. Harsha, if I can request you, this round we need to capture all the notes. I know we're recording this. Over to you.
Yeah, I think like we should make it. Would love to collaborate. I think in terms of what we can prioritize, just one thing I think early on would be good to find use cases of where it's getting used. Right, so you have those three things, and the final thing it's almost where it gets used. Would prioritize to finding some use cases, because early wins is what will also then get more people into it. Because eventually it's successful if you can get more people across all three layers. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Felipe.
Sure. Now, these platforms are amazing. Maybe I just want to recall something that Kashmira said and Shivani also in terms of the storytelling and the data. I think that's something that needs to be encompassed always. I think stories make possible community movements, and that makes political will. If you encompass that with data and you produce analysis of that data, then you have decision makings that are responsible and that are actually something that you can deliver on the ground. So definitely these kind of platforms help to unlock these two things: storytellings, but at the same time data analysis. So you will be able to deliver on the ground.
I really like the way you formulate it. This is a roundtable of storytellers and data guys coming together, right? They need to work more together and they need to help us all get ahead. Rahul?
I think it will be very awkward for me to say no.
That's a trap we walked right into.
But I would say that quality matters quite a lot, and I would say this: if this dashboard sort of develops, it should be open to conversations about quality, data quality. All that matters quite a lot. And I think I talk to Shivani quite a lot. At this stage, it will be very important for us to involve people like her to see what use cases she would be interested in. And I think that's what, yeah.
No, I very intentionally triggered your cynical hormone. And I must tell you that when you say this platform should do that, what we're hoping here is we must make this platform that. You are as much owner of this. If you want to change the look and feel and any of the slides or three pillars and make the pillar move here, there, all yours. Rahul, we welcome you to co-create it, co-own it and drive this forward.
Of course,
Shivani.
we benefit the most from this. So as I understand, there is data to be generated and there is data which is already there. So someone needs to just put all that together in and own it, as they say.
Thank you, Shivani.
Yeah.
Thank you for participation.
Yes, I think definitely would love to be a part of it. But I think I've also become a bit of a skeptic over the years working with cities. And would love to hear, I think when you say everybody co-owns it, I think it needs one owner. I think there needs to be somebody to say that, that final decision-making body. Or
Are you ready?
To take control. No, we are not ready. I am telling you that.
I love to do this. I've done it in the previous session to someone else.
No, I think it's a huge lift, and hence I feel like it needs an owner. If somebody like WRI is driving it, then that onus has to be on WRI to drive it. And I think the second part is maintenance, like where we look at our city infrastructure and we constantly are cribbing about operations and maintenance. Similarly here, you create this leaderboard. I think it's fantastic. Dashboard. But who's making sure that there is some procedure to ensure maintenance of this data will be extremely crucial.
No, the ambition is very big and it's a long thing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, what you see is how those of you that are patiently listening to all this, you can also share your views on this very question. So please feel free to put your comment. If you want to add your name and organization, that's fine too, but you don't have to. Sir, I'll come to you and to give you a closing remark. So I'll skip to you for now and then go to Mr. Lohia, sir, and then to the rest of the round.
Well, I would say there are
parts to this.
Yes.
One is one organization who would be driving it in terms of owning, because many times when it comes to making such a platform, so there is a requirement of funds which was discussed, and there is also a requirement of technical manpower. And third part also comes, which is how exactly this will be managed. So who would be owning it, and then who would be the umpire? So I think when we pushed for the National Common Mobility Card in 2009, and at that time it could not come up, was that at that time I was trying to do it entirely without any funding from the government. So that was a mistake. Had we given a fund of only about 400 to 500 crores to set up a central clearing house, which later on NPCI became, so then it became easy. So had that been done at that time, so this would have come up in 2011. So my suggestion would be that maybe Ministry of Urban Development takes the lead, sets it up, funds it. The sustainability part can come from funding from various sources and the kind of remuneration which can go, etc., etc. The technical part and getting the community involved can be with an organization like WRI, which also not has to be just at the central level. You need to have, because I think Mr. Surya mentioned various states, various cities, because you have to find the champions and bet on them.
Right.
So when you are driving a country like India, which is more than Europe, you cannot do it only from here. So you have to find the winning horses and bet on them. So I think it has to be done.
I think you have the most experience in this matter, and it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. It's a longer conversation, but you'll probably be the first conversation we'll have on how to set something like this up. And I think there are existing rules of the game, an ordination, a funder, and then they work on some outcomes. This one doesn't lend itself to that. So we probably have to break some rules as well. So we'll look for you for guidance on that. So Dr. Chakrabarti.
Yeah, so definitely looking forward to having such a portal. Maybe like one of the suggestion can be that whatever like small amount of data that we have, if we can standardize it and put it forward with some use cases that people are looking for, then I'm pretty sure that researchers who are interested, they can start consuming the data and find out some insights, and hopefully that starts kicking in, like more data coming in, more analysis going out, more story being told.
Thank you. Abhijit.
Yeah, I think do it. And
just do it.
Yeah, just do it. If you've taken the lead, so I think you should continue that. And I mean, whatever capacity I can, I will definitely support this. And I'll reiterate what Loya sir said. I think the ownership has to be with the government. We can help them set it up.
You know why I kept him in the last, right? Thanks for the hint, Abhijit.
Yeah, I think there is no other way this will work. There has to, and what we can help with is a standardized set of data.
Right.
What kind of data is required, we can help with that. But ownership, I think, we covered it.
Thank you.
Yes, I already you mentioned my approach. Still the same. I think we have to focus. I think that's very important because it's such a huge initiative. Yeah, when I think about India, I mean, the Europeans are always very impressed what India is doing, because it's more than Europe and parts of whatever. Yeah. So therefore, the focus. Yeah. Who is the audience? Who is the governance? How is the governance structure? How we communicate? How we tell the story about this network? Because this is also important, that people, how we do the quality check. Yeah. That the quality is really perfect, because otherwise it will be dead immediately. And no parallel structures.
No parallel structures.
Yes, I think this is very important, because if we build parallel structures to government structures, it doesn't make sense. Last but not least, GIZ's India transport portfolio, there are 3 projects coming up, all with the focused data. So just
great.
Let's.
Fantastic. That's music to our ears. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm going to sound a little cliche. So one is, of course, we have to build it, and of course we have to have open data, but nothing succeeds like success. Small success leads to big
early
success. So I think these success stories have to build up. So from the data to the stories, I think that
we heard a lot of them today, actually.
yes,
right? Yeah.
yes, and those need to be put in up there. And one small thing that I want to mention, since you said I can speak something else, more roads does not lead to lesser congestion, but also public transport being there also does not remove congestion unless the people know about that public transport. So information or data about and the stories about public transport also, I think it is more important than what we currently realize. So unless the people know, I can have many buses running at the midnight, but who knows? So that's one thing, data information is very important when it comes to public transport. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm on board. There's no problem.
All right. he's taking 328B.
No. Well, but one thing is that I think you are all experts. We are journalists, You call us journalists, but we are journalists, unfortunately. And we think that we know everything under the sky and sun. That's a very bad part of our profession. Still, I'll say that, there is a saying, garbage in is garbage out. I think data is gold. That gold should be 24 karat. If it doesn't happen.
All right. Oh, wow. He's giving punchlines after punchlines. Thank you, sir. So I'll give the final word to Bhanu Pratap Singh. Sir, you have this great distinction of being a government representative in this forum right now. No pressure on you, but
buck stops at me. So sir would be knowing as a director listens, director and directs downwards. so many things. It's a great idea. Should have, fortunately or unfortunately, given my current portfolio, I may not be able to contribute much, but definitely once it is created, I will be definitely part of it down the line after a year or two. But what I believe, see, a lot of planning is going on, a lot of experts are there. I think India needs projectized. This thing's entire urban transport needs to be projectized. Right. I'm thinking only on once by this ITMS portal, if it gets succeeded, many problems will get resolved. So we have to think in implementing aspect, a lot of planning, a lot of expert, everything's going. Look at Kumta is there in Chennai. What about urban transporters? Sir might comment. I'm the only one. And that to happen to be from a railway background. That's why I know I could grasp the scheme in
right.
small time. But so capacity building is required for as the national level. So these kind of platform will definitely act as advocacy or advisory kind of peer group or pressure group. It is always welcome. But definitely only this advisory will not work. I'm telling you. We need to have small projects. The ideas.
Yeah.
So small ideations, small projects, proof of concepts. That should work. And that can only be scaled up. That is my learning from the past 2 years. And I'm making I don't believe in, you might have seen there is no visibility of PMA versus scheme in last 2 years.
Quietly gets it.
So I'm doing thing quietly, and I believe there's a lot of things needs to be done in public transport, primarily for bus-based transport. There is no organization now. As for STU, people were telling we need to create a institution at the STU level. So one of the days when intercity travel was a challenge, now the private players are doing intercity travels on their own without any subsidy. But that transport that already created STU infrastructure or institution, that can be basically diverted towards urban transport. So that is how we can make a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very, very wise words. Over to you, Avinash, for a vote of thanks.
Thank you, everyone. First of all, thanks, Srini, for having this panel. I would like to say thank you for all of the panelists, all the participants to be here at this point of time. Even when IHC has also given up and they have started closing the lights, but y'all here, so that means a lot. Thanks for it. The points very well taken from all the panelists regarding like it's a too big task to do So we do realize, like, yes, it's not the for any single entity or an organization to do it. So that is why, like, whosoever is good in whichever part, let's contribute in a meaningful way, and let's have this conversation. We will definitely follow this round of discussion with another one very soon. If not physically, but at least virtually. I'm very optimistic about, like, the way all of you all participated. You all be willing to join for that. And let's take this conversation forward, because for having this sort of conversation to us might not have justified it. We'll follow it up very soon. Thank you. Thank you again for everyone. Thank you, Banu sir. I do know that you have to leave early, but you still waited.
Yes,
it
sir.
means a
Really
lot.
appreciate
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rohan, Sonal.
I would request,
Chintan,
sir,
Dhaval, everyone.
I would request my team, if you all could please hand over this token.